2 decades ago, Nelson Mandela uttered those famous words at the very first Laurues World Sports Awards in Monte Carlo: sport has the power to change the world. It's been doing exactly that for 20 years, impacting 6.5 million children around the world. And for a couple of days, we're up at Sun City with the South African chapter of Laurues, celebrating those 2 decades and looking forward to what's still to come. Ask any rugby fan in Durban who their favourite player of all time is. There's a good chance the name Butch James will come up, which is completely ridiculous because he's a horrible person. As I remember all too clearly, Andrew James, from the last time we had a Laurues gathering when we were in Mauritius, and you said, yeah, Dan, well, we'll just film something. I'll just tackle you ever so gently. You cracked 3 ribs and I was hospitalised for 48 hours.
Yeah, I think I've been with the Laurues Foundation for 14 years, and amongst all the project visits and seeing the smiles on all those kids' faces, my best moment with Laurues has definitely been when I tackled you on the beach in Mauritius.
Well, I'm glad I gave you some joy, just as Laurues has given you not the visits to all the projects, which are terrific, but also a rather special moment. It was in St. Petersburg, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's right. After the 2007 Rugby World Cup, we were nominated for Team of the Year, and at the 2008 awards, we were presented with the Team of the Year, which was amazing.
And that's the bit that everybody sees, and it's cool, and it's glamorous and it's awesome, but it's the stuff in the projects, and you visited so many of them. That's what really makes the difference. Yeah,
look, the Laurues Awards is really, really special, and it's always an honor if you do get invited to them, but what does outdo that is definitely a visit to any one of the projects. I recall probably my favorite project visit was in Hong Kong, where they took these kids from the street that had been up to no good, and they started teaching them to play rugby, and just to see the enjoyment and the smiles that it put on their faces, I think that way outdoes any Laurues Awards.
Indeed. Smiles so big for Butch James, they almost matched the one when he put me on my back for the better part of a week.
Never.
Skull Brits, we've just spent a little bit of time together with the Laurues Sport for Good Foundation. You've generally got a smile on your face most of the time, but it seems to be even broader when you're in a Laurues context.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's meeting great people in a great location like Sun City, and for me it's just celebrating actually 20 years of Laurues, and for me it's if I can play a small part in this big, amazing organisation, then it's great.
You've played a part in visiting projects, hanging out with the kids, having loads of fun, being a kid yourself. You've also played a role in the awards though, because we were in Berlin together a few years ago, and that was pretty magical.
Yeah, it was amazing. Springboks winning the Laurues Award for Best Team, but I mean, we just received the awards, and it was actually an award for all South Africans. I mean, I can literally, when we were in Japan, I literally felt the support from the locals there, from the South Africans, and then coming back, it was a time that I would never ever forget.
So how did this mad, crazy, wonderful idea of Laurues come about? Well, it's the gentleman beside me who can tell that story, because without you, Ian Banner, there would not be Laurues.
Well, it's a team effort always, but yes. Of course, the original idea was an award show, and that wasn't my idea. That's Johan Rupert. Johan must take full credit for that. But when I looked at an award show on its own, I felt that it needed a purpose. And I didn't think a single stake in the ground isn't firm and strong. You can push it over. So I suggested to Johan that we should have a foundation as the ultimate beneficiary of whatever we did, so we could celebrate annually through the awards, with 365 days of the year we would do good work. And of course had the idea of an academy of legendary sportsmen and women who became our electoral college on the one hand for the awards, but perhaps more importantly would work with the projects that we support, and that's how it started.
You gave me a number. I'm going to ask you to give me that number again, because it is a staggering number over the 20 years to date.
So I was blown over a month ago when from London I had, and it's independently verified, confirmation that we have impacted the lives really positively of some 6.5 million children since we started. And we support close to 300 projects a year. Here in South Africa we have 35 projects, and money is important when you're a charity organization. We've raised just around 3.8 billion rand since we started doing good.
One of the key pillars to the World of Laureus is the ambassadors, and if you go back in time with the World of Laureus in South Africa, there were 3 from the very start: Lucas Radebe, Natalie du Toit, and John Robbie. How well do you remember those first conversations about what Laureus was, and would you like to join us?
Well, I remember when Laureus came on board and started, the biggest problem was how do you pronounce it? Laureus, Laurues, nobody knew how to pronounce it. And I was a little bit skeptical because all over the world, people had tried to come up with this all-embracing sports awards system. And suddenly this company came, Laureus, and so I thought, here's another one. But of course, they started off with Nelson Mandela backing it, which was huge, and they've carried through. And also, it's not just about the glitz and glamour, it's about the Sport for Good Foundation, and I've been absolutely proud to be an ambassador right from the start.
Tell me a bit about some of the projects you visited and what that's meant to you.
Well, there have been so many, and you think of the huge ones. I mean, I remember when the awards were in Rio de Janeiro, and we went to the favelas, the slums in Rio that make some of our informal settlements look like Houghton. But the people there had an incredible spirit, and it was wonderful. But even the smaller ones, I remember there were some boxing events we've been to, some tiny little events. I remember going to a cricket event where someone had forgotten to mow the lawn. You mow the pitch, so it was, ankle deep, but it didn't matter. It was enthusiasm, and it's all driven by the people who found these incredible events. Laureus finds them and gives them support, and there have really been so many, and each one is just as important as the next.
The chiselled and square-jawed heartbeat of Laureus South Africa is the chairman, Morné du Plessis. 20 years now, and as you said to us a little earlier on today, like that, gone in a flash.
Like a flash. My notes this morning were 20 years long celebration, but I thought that's not the right word. It's 20 short years. I mean, look, relative to speaking to my age, they are short years, but it's been just the most amazing journey. I've had a privileged sporting life, unbelievably privileged, but to put it this way, end it a sporting career in this fashion where you can enjoy it, put something back, see difference, see youngsters like we do today actually taking over. Those kids were once in our programs, and to see a Nasibi talking on a world stage as a leader, that's what it's about.
Is it possible in the 2 decades to pick out 1 or 2 highlights that sum up not just what Laureus has meant as a whole, but what it's meant to you?
Yeah. Maybe I tell you that what I mentioned, that trip to Hong Kong, to see those youngsters arrive in Hong Kong, and one of them, they'd never been to Cape Town, some of them, they've been to Hong Kong. Moments like that, and meeting Mandela at that day, he walked into the room and he walked around to everybody and he knew my name. I mean, nobody really knew me in that incredibly famous room, but Madiba knew me, and was that a moment in my life? For sure.
22 years after Madiba's famous words, 2 decades after Laureus Sport for Good started in South Africa, the movement is looking stronger than ever, and the future so very, very bright.